All right. So um, for this week, moving forward, we're gonna dive deeply into building APIs using using Fast API, which is a Python framework. And like I said, at least we have to have a basic understanding of what is happening on the user interface, on the front end part of web applications. And I said that I'll give us a quick summary of that, and also urge us that in our spare time you can actually go deeper if you want to. But I'm about to tell you should cover for this boot camp, and then in your spare time, like I said, you can simply go forward and maybe pick up front end development as as a as a field that you also want to attach to back end development as well, and that which will make you what a full stack developer. So basically, what exactly is web development? Okay, for people that are coming into this field newly, and maybe you've been hearing of web development. What exactly is web development? So basically, um, web applications, right, are basically programs that we access from our browser. Okay, so they run on a web server and we access it from our browser. A typical example of them is if you go to, let's say, your browser. This is my browser here, so I'll minimize this for now. If you go to your browser and then you visit so any website, right? Let's just okay, let us look at this one bar segmentation, and then we will come across a links, right, on Google search engine, right, and then this links takes over to a specific browser. Now if I, let's say, if I click on this, okay, if I click on this, then we have a very wonderful application here, right, that displays certain information. Now this program or this application that is running here or is displaying here on our screen is what we call a web application. So we can only access this application from a web browser. So there's no way we can probably go to, let's say, a mobile app, or say, let's say, we go to, let's say, any application that's a browser and then try to do what to access this program here. All right. So that's basically what a web application is. Right. And then what makes up this application here are basically web pages, right? So a full web application like this, right, consists of web pages, right? So this could be a single page on this web application, and then when we navigate to another route, we have a separate page, right? Another page, right, that's still linking the word to the same web application. So a web application, right, in simple terms, are basically the collection of web pages. Does that make sense? A collection of web pages. And you may be wondering, how do we create these web pages, right? We look at that soon. Okay, we'll look at that soon. But for now, I want us to know that a web application or a website is basically what the collection of web pages, right? And then this application must run on a web server and can be accessed via a web browser. But then if we actually look at a web application deeply, right, it follows certain concepts, or should I say a certain model. Let me minimize this. It follows certain model, okay, and this is more like a client server model. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by client server model? So client server model is basically a way where a web application, okay, have seen like as two separate entities, right? There's a client section and then there's a server section. So the client section is basically the section, right, that displays information. What we are seeing right here, what we are seeing, all these informations here, right? That is a client section, and then the server section is more like the resources. So what happens is that the client section makes a request to the server section to get specific resources, and then this resource is being sent to the client section and then being displayed for you, the end user, to actually see. So for now, as the end user, you may not actually know which of this information is dynamic and which of it is static. When I mean dynamic, simply mean which of this information is coming from our server side, or which of this information is being hard coded in the client side. Do you understand? Should I repeat that again?
Yes,
Is
sir.
anyone?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So basically saying that, right, that in order for us to have a full working application, web application like this, okay, that usually web application consists of two sections, or should I say two parts, right? The client part and the server part. Now, what do you mean by the client part? The client part, from the name client, is basically end user part, right? The part where the user can actually see. Is typical example is what we are seeing here. Okay, how do our custom computer vision service works? And all this write up, and probably alongside with if there's images and all those things that we can see, the buttons, the image here, and this write up has, and then there's a button here with design and all those things. So those are basically what client side. Those are the things that the user sees. But then there's some information that the client side have to request from the server side. All right. So now what happens is that the client side will send a request. And when I mean a request, I'm simply referring to an HTTP request. Okay. So it will send an HTTP request. The type of that request actually depends on the information, right? So we have different kinds of requests. We have a get request, we have a post request, we have put, delete, and the rest of them. We'll look at it when we start writing our fast API code. So so the client side send this request to the server side, and then the server side does what, accept this request, process it, and then what, get the specific resource that has been requested for, and then what, sent it back to the client side, and the client side does what, go ahead and display it. That is what I mean by client server model. So most websites follows that model, right? While most websites are basically just um, client model, meaning that every information there is being hard coded, right? There's nothing that no request has been made to external bodies, right? Everything there is being hard coded and then put there statically, right? It means that this information cannot change dynamically. Do you understand? Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any question? Any question? Right. So but basically that's how a web application works. All right. That's how a web application works. So they are basically the collection of web pages that are linked together to what to form a working website. And then most websites follow client server model. So it means that that website is that most content on that website is what is dynamic. It means that most websites do make a request, get resources and do what, and display it on the page. That what client server model is. But while there are others that are just client model, it means that every information there is static, is hard coded, right? It cannot change dynamically. And then we have components of, okay, so what makes up a web application, right? What do we use to do what to create a website? Okay. And for the front end aspect, we have HTML, we have CSS, we have JavaScript. Right? So those are the core languages, right? That or core 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 languages that we use to do what to develop a front end, more like a static application. Okay. So and then you may be wondering as well, how do we actually use all these things to do what to come up with something like this, right? So that's where front end comes in, right? Which we look at it very little. We look at it at the surface level of it, right? Because we don't intend to do all that, right? We need to just start there and then go back to our default section, being what the back end development. And so I will just show us, right, a basic example of how these things can be used to do what to put up something like this. All right, then if anyone that finds this interesting and want to actually go into this, can can actually wait for KodeCamp 5.0 and then you register for for front end section of it. All right. Okay, uh so basically like I said that most website does what follow a client server model, right? So meaning that most websites that are divided into two sections. We have the front end development, which is what we have right here, and we have the front end development and also have the back end development, which is what we have here. So the back end is the server side, and the front end is more like the client section. And the key concepts in the front end are the user interface and the user experience. So basically, what happens in this section is basically how do we put up a design like this, right? How to put up an interface that the user can actually use, right? So that's what happens in the front end section. Right, so they put up the design, they understand how this color palette works. Okay, what color is most appropriate to signify a specific meaning. Where should we place this button? Where should we put this font? What font size should we use, and all those things. So everything pertaining to design, to the UI and the feeling of this site, that's the domain of the front end development. And it's quite interesting, all right. And if you've seen it, well, you could, like I said, for 5.0, please remember that you cannot do both tracks. Under no circumstances should be found in the front end development at this point, right? When still in this section, when still in back end development, please do not be tempted to. Right, so I'll put up a very simple page, and then we see how we can actually, and then we see how pages like this, right, are actually being done. I'm not saying I'm going to replicate this. I'm saying that I'm going to show you how this can be done, right? How how website or how web pages actually works. Okay, so we said that to actually put up a web application that we have two sections, right? We have the front end, we have the back end, right? So now focusing on the front end, now the tools that we use in building front end applications are basically HTML, right? So HTML is hypertext markup language, and it's used to structure the web page, right? So it's used for structuring. So basically it provides room to the work for you to use certain tags or to actually put up information or the skeleton of the website itself. And then we also have the CSS, which is actually used for the styling, right? So behind this wonderful design, there is an HTML skeleton that has been in place, right? And then this skeleton can now be covered with flesh. See it as the human anatomy. We have the skeleton, we have the flesh, right? And then the skeleton we can see it as well as the HTML. And then your flesh, okay, your wonderful features can then be seen can then be seen as well as the success of the web application. And then your functionality, the things you can do, like you can run, you can talk, you can jump, all those things can we can see it as what as the JavaScript of a web application. Okay, so we have the HTML, we have the CSS, and then we have the JavaScript. Okay, we also have what we know as frameworks and libraries. So these are basically the collection of tools that helps us in building a front end application, right? A static website. So we have frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue. Okay, so for those of us that would intend to, at some point, you have to actually pick up one of these frameworks, okay, which will aid in building your front end applications. And then one key things about a front end engineer is responsive design. So it means that if I'm to visit this application with this web application with my phone, I should this should still have a reasonable design. Meaning that if I should shrink this, I don't expect this application to look scattered. All right, it should be arranged in a way that it fits in a mobile phone. If I should also visit this site in a tab, this site should also be arranged in a way that it fits in a tap screen, right? So that's where the responsive design comes in. So that's most like it's almost in this our design these days. Okay, most websites actually do this, right? Unlike the olden days website that it just fits into one screen, and then when you take it from that screen to another screen size, then that becomes a problem. But I want to assume that this one is should fit. So let's try this out. So I could simply just shrink this. I could just use the inspect, and then so you can see that that actually shrink and gave us a more wonderful look on phone. So you see that this is how this site will look like on phone application. So that's basically what's responsive design. So it means that as we reduce the screen or as we increase the screen, the site should automatically do what, shrink or rearrange the what to fit in that screen. So you can see that on smaller screen, the navigation is gone. All right, so it's been hidden. All right, and then we can still access it at one point or the other. Okay. So that's basically one of the concepts or the key things that must be done in front end development. So a quick one, I'll just show you how you can put up a simple web page, very simple one, that won't have any use case at all. But then for the purpose of illustration, so I'll show us how HTML can come up with CSS and with JavaScript and the rest of them. Question before we move into that. Question. No question. All right. So silence means no question. All right. So quickly, we open up our folder, and like I said, that every web application is sitting on an HTML on HTML on a markup language. Is that web application is sitting on a markup language. So I'll open up this folder. I'll open up this folder in my CMD. All right, so that what is coming up? All right, so I'll put up. I'll just put a simple page here. Okay, so I think this was someone's tax. All right, so I'll put up a simple page, a simple HTML file. Right. So now remember, every web page actually sits on a markup language. Right, and then to create a web page, right, we need our HTML file. Right, so it means that you create a file that has an extension .html, and then that file can be opened up in your browser. All right, so that file, so your browser reads HTML files. Okay, so now if I'm to open up that file, then in my browser, and the browser will read appropriately, right, then that file must have an extension of one of .html. So I will create one here, right, for the purpose of illustration. So I'll create one here, and I'll call this index.html. And then we could go back to our folder here, and then we could have that file there. So we open up this file in our browser. So I can open this up in Chrome, and then we have this blank page, right? So once when starting out with a front end development like this, usually if you have nothing there, then nothing actually shows on your screen, right? So usually we can simply just write these things here. You can just write anything on this page and it will just display there. So for now, I'll just put up a name, okay? Put up a name, and I'll call this name Savior Basi, and I'll put out a track for now. I'll call this Python beginner, and up some bootcamp, and this will be CodeCamp. CodeCamp, and put a version, and this will be 4.0. All right, and then I could just simply load this up and in our browser, and this will just display appropriately. Okay, so we have this wonderful, not too wonderful, but then a wonderful write-up up there. Okay, and that will actually work. So your what you're seeing here, all right, actually started from something not too wonderful here. Okay, but then we wouldn't want to do what we wouldn't want to just put up write things like this, right? So in HTML we have what we call tags, we have attributes, we have elements. So we can wrap these things in tags that describe whatever we want to actually put up there. So what do I mean? Let's assume that I want to give it this. Let's say I have this. Let's say I call this trainers. Okay, details. Okay, trainers details. All right, and then right within me, I know that this should be what this is supposed to be what a more like a header, right? A heading for all of this, right? A heading for all of that. So, but then if I go back to my browser and I refresh this, then this will just keep showing on a straight line. Okay, this just keeps showing on a straight line, default behavior. Okay, and we can actually use tags, right? Because the whole essence of tags are like to actually tell the browser this is how you should view this information. This information here is a header, so view it as well as a header. This information here is a paragraph, so view it as well as a paragraph. This one here is an image, please display it as well as an image. So those are tags that help the browser to understand what is going on in your HTML file, right? Because right now we are seeing a bunch of text. Right? The browser can actually tell which one is which one is heading, which one is a paragraph, which one is an image, which one is a list, and so on and so forth, which is table. So we have this element that help us do what to let the browser do what knows these things. So we have a lot of them. Okay, we have a lot of them. You can, like I said, if you actually want to go into this deeply, then one is the way forward. All right, way for KodeCamp 5.0. Right, but then you need to actually understand what is still going on here. So what and we have heading tags in HTML, and there I think they range from H1 all the way to H6, I believe. So H1 actually means the smaller the number. Okay, the smaller the number, the bigger the heading, and the bigger the number, the smaller the heading. It's quite unfortunate that it is that way. So we have a heading like we have H1. Okay, I shouldn't put that in caps lock. So we have headings like we have H1. That's heading one. We have H. We have an we have H2. So you can see that the moment I put up H, right? Since I'm with VS Code, and VS Code support in a lot of languages. Okay, so it knows that this is an HTML file, so it automatically gives you suggestions, right? So we can see that we have H1 all the way to H6, right? And then we have other interesting elements like the HTML, the header, and the rest of them. Okay, so basically you want to use the heading tags for headings. So in this case, then I wouldn't want to put my trainer that way. I would want to do a put it within a tag. So remember, so the key thing is that every tag has a closing and an opening tag. So it means that there are some tags that have it closing. Mean that if you open it here, then you must close it somewhere after you've passed the information there. While there's some tags that don't have a closing tag, they are self-closed. So it means that once you open it, they automatically close themselves without you being welcome to specify another closing tag right there. Right. So if we refresh this, then this should change that. So we have a more bigger heading there that says trainers detail. And like I said, the bigger the number, the smaller the text. So if I change this to H6, we should have that text get smaller. Means that is the heading, but then it's not really an important heading there. So you said that actually done what, and that actually reduces that text. Okay, so we also have other tags. We have the P tag. P tag is actually used to paragraph and the rest of them. So I will have another tag here called P tag, and I will put in whatever information here. So I will say below the details of the trainer. Okay, and that becomes a paragraph. So it means that that should look smaller than the heading. So you see that the heading is too small. That's because we are still using what the H6 there. But then you see that the P tag actually put this right below the heading, right? Because it's a paragraph, and then if I put in another paragraph, then it means take it to another line. So if I should just duplicate this and refer, then we should have like say another line, then making it another paragraph. And we could put this now in a list. So we have another task called list. So all these things depends on what information you wish to put on the web page, right? If I intend to put a list of, let's say, have list of courses, then the appropriate tag there would be a list tag, right? So there are all the tags available for whatever information you want to do, what to put in your page, right? These tags, you know them. There's no law that says you must cram all these tags. You just know these tags the moment you start building front end applications, right? And then you know when to use them and when not to do what use them. Right, so we have something like called list tag, and we have two kinds of list tag. We have the ordered list, we have the unordered list. Right, don't worry about all these details. Just know that that this is how this is how a web application is being created. So we have an HTML file like this, and then within this file we have HTML tags. Yeah, with the appropriate information we need within those tags, right? And then this is being what being deployed, and then we have what you have your working web application. Well, it sounds simple, but it's not that simple. All right, so we can, and then within your list tag, we can have other items called list items. All right, so list items is basically the items that should be in this list. So probably if it was a list of fruits, then this could be bananas, banana. We can have another one. This could be apple. We have another one, and this could be just be a mango. Though. Okay, so we have a wonderful list there, right? So we also have another tag. Say we wanted to have a link that links to somewhere. Then we have a tag called anchor link. So anchor link is what is basically a link that says take me to. If I click on it, take me to this specific page. So this link has an attribute called href. Href is basically where do you want it to go to. So let's assume that once I click this link, I want to go to what is it? I want to come to this page. So we'll simply just copy this page here and then pass it as well as the value for that tag, for that attribute, href. And then within this a tag, you can pass the information. So we'll say click me right here. And then when we refresh our page, we should now have a wonderful link that says click me right there. So link, we have what we call inline tags and block tags, right? So block tags are basically headers like this or paragraph, like tags that takes up the whole space, the whole line. So it means that if you put another tag after them, they will put that other tag to the next line. So those are like block tags. They pick up the whole block. While inline tags are like basically tags that can actually accumulate other tags on the same line, right? Without necessarily pushing the other tag to the next line. So if I click on this link now, then they should now take me to this page, which is what just happened. So you have so now we now have this page, two of them there. So we have this here, we have that there. All right. So that's basically how web applications are being created. So we have thousands of tabs, all right, and for detailed explanation of how these things are, of when to use these things and how to use them, like I said, KodeCamp 5.0. All right, so you could just digress there. Okay, so but then we then for every HTML page, all right, so we have that your HTML must follow certain syntax. So it means that this is more like a boilerplate for all your HTML page. It means that this must be there in your HTML, right? Which helps your browser to understand, which pass like a meta information to the browser. So it means that everything that you need to write must stay within what your body tag. I say anything that should live in your web page must live within your body tag. So that means everything that we'll be doing so far should be here within our body tag. And then when we refresh this should still work. Right? This should still work. Not index. So that still works as expected. Question. There's not a question, right? Because this is front end. All right, so the silent is no question. So, like I said, front end is actually comprised of what HTML, which is what we have here, basically what the skeleton of the website. We also have CSS used for the designs. So the colors and all those things that are seen there as is done with what you call CSS, cascading style sheet. And we are different ways that we can apply this design. So we can either do it externally, let's put it in a new file and then link it inside our HTML page, right? Or we can simply write it in the HTML page itself, or we could simply just write it on the tag itself. So I'll simply just put one here on the tag here. So to apply a style, and this is not actually advisable, but then or this is not actually recommended, because in a full web application, you wouldn't want to be applying your style to each element like that, because it will make your whole HTML page to be messy. So basically, what people do, or what front end engineer does, they have it in a separate file, and then they simply use it in their HTML, right? So more like the module concept that we did back then in Python. So to apply a style, but for purpose of demonstration of how the style works, I'll just simply apply one on the element itself. So I can apply on this element, and so to apply a style, we use the attribute style, and then I will say let this style have a let's say a color of blue, and that's simple. And then when we go to our page, we have that this mine is now blue color. You see, so now so it takes a lot to pull up a front end wonderful design, but you need to actually think of the aesthetics and then design it appropriately. Okay, so we can have a lot of cascading style sheet is more like a library, or a library that comes with a lot of color function, or should I say customizing function, where you can apply a lot of customization, like the font size, the font weight, font family, text size, and all of them, right? So there are a lot of them there. So that's basically how the CSS work. Okay, we can even apply it to the whole body and say that let our page have a background color of red. Not it's not going to be a very wonderful web page, but then that design has been applied. Yeah. So that's simple. That's simple. So that's basically what is happening in the front end function.
Where's the
Right.
charger? Where's the charger?
So that's basically what is happening in the front end section. Like, so what they do is they use these languages and then pull up a wonderful design like this. And then you may be wondering, oh, no, let's see, keep coming up. You may be wondering how okay, we may be wondering, where do we come in? We as the back end developers or the APIs, people that are going to write the API, where do we come in? So we come in because most of this application needs resources from databases, right? And then those resources or those requests can be done from the front end to our API, and then we process it, and then we will give the valuable or the required resource for that request. That's where we come in. So remember the client server model, right? A client server model. So basically, want to show us how the front end guys does their thing, right? I'm not saying that this is how they do it, but this is the steps, or this is the basic of how it's been done. Okay, and then from here they will do what they will put up a wonderful web page, and then we like it, and then we like what we see. But then behind those web page are people like us that actually exist, because we behind those web page, and those people are making requests to our server, or to the server that we will be building, and then we're processing those requests and sending the appropriate resources, and then they simply just displays to the client, and the clients will be happy, forgetting that we exist within that behind that wonderful scene, right? So question before we move that to where we should get to. Question.
Sorry, sir. How did you create the HTML page from?
Okay, so you simply just go to anywhere in your file directory, right? And then just create a file, and then let that file has HTML extension. So I simply just created one within our folder here. So you just right click and then you can already right click on this empty space, or there is an icon here that says add file, right above where I have my cursor there. So the first icon that says is for add file. So you just click on add file, give it a name. It could be any name dot html. So your browser will be able to interpret this, but we wouldn't be doing this, right? We will not do this. This will be the last time we are doing this in this entire bootcamp. This is for the front end engineers to do. Ours is to do what is to provide resources. But that's how you can create an
Thank you.
HTML file and then load it up in your browser. So any other question?
Sir,
Okay.
please can you explain again where we come in as backend developers?
Where you coming as back-end developers? All right. So
Yes.
let's go to let's look for a page that has a specific. Okay, let's go to a block. Okay, let's go to a block section. All right. So what we have here, look at this. What we have here are articles, right? Articles that people publish, and we have about thousands of them. So within this article, right, I can see that there is an image here. So there is an image tag here. There is probably a link tag here that has what the title of the article, and there's more like the snippet of the article right there, more like a paragraph there. Okay, so now these articles are not being hard coded, right? I'm not seeing what's happening behind the scene, but then without someone telling me, I can confidently tell you that these articles are not being hard coded. What do I mean? It means that someone did not just come here and do this. Let's go back to our HTML. So we have article, we have an image there, right? We have image, we have heading, we have a paragraph there. So I'll put up a similar thing, but not that wonderful. So I'll comment on this. Comments will still is that's comment in HTML, right? So the angle bracket, exclamation mark, dash dash, and then dash dash, right? Angle bracket. That's comment in HTML. But then you can still highlight and do control / and that will comment. So I'll put up something similar there. So I have an image, an img tab, all right? So that's how you put up an image in that how you put up an image in HTML. So now this HTML takes in a source. So far we don't have any image there. So I'll simply go and find one image, and probably this image, and download this image here. Let's see. See if you can save this image. So let's see. So let's see if we can save that image. Simply just use it here. Log section. Give me a second. So I need this image here. This image is found somewhere here. I can simply right click and just save the image. An ATF file. Doesn't matter. I'll change the extension. Main image option, right? So we have that, and then I will simply just copy that image to where we have. So I'll copy this, copy that, and go back to our desktop. KodeCamp beginners and paste it there. So I'll simply just edit this to have a new extension of the JPEG. And then I will copy the name. So to load an image, we simply need to state the directory of the image. So where is the image located? So at this moment, this image is just located right where we have the index. Right? So they're in the same directory. So I could simply put the image name there. So if you go back, we should have a wonderful image. I'll put out this tag that says background should be red. All right, so going back to what we have, refresh, we now have that wonderful image. The is big. So I can simply just apply style and do what? Change the height to probably 100 pixel. All right, so that's we have different measuring units in front end development, right? So pixel is more like a measuring unit in front end. So I'll say 100 pixel and 100 pixel. If I this looks smaller, no problem. And then what follows there is what is a title, right? And then a short paragraph. So what should come next could be perhaps we just put break there. So and then have a title that says history for now. Block one title, and then I could have P that says paragraph for block one. That's what we have. Refresh. So that's basically what is going on. Though it's not us is not as wonderful about what is going on there, but that will save the purpose. So what I'm trying to see is that where do we come in as back end developers or engineers? Now let's assume that we have 1 million article in a database, or let's say let's assume that we have 1 million article on ground that needs to be published or that needs to be displayed on the user screen. So does that mean that the developer will follow these procedures like this for 1 million times? Do you think that will happen? And then start typing, because it means that you're hard coding. So it means that you now sit down, right, and then you type out the whole article there for 1 million articles written by different people. No, that will not be so fantastic. If that was the case, I don't think there's anyone that would have been in front end development. Everyone would have found someone else and put themselves. But then what will happen? Probably these articles are somewhere stored in a database, right? And then they need to do what? To just simply fetch those data and do what? And loop it. Similar to your loop. There's also loop. Yes, there's also loop. So they can fetch the data from database and loop it. But then how do they fetch the data from the database? It means that that they need to find a way of contacting us, that please help us go to the database, do what? Fetch that data, fetch all of them. If it's 1 million, fetch the whole 1 million articles. After fetching it, do what? Send it for me. And I'll just simply loop it and display it on the screen. How to do it, it's not your own problem. But then it's recommended that you know how these things are done. But then your own job is to do what? Is to accept that request of, I want to go to the database and do what? And fetch 100 or 1 million article, and then I have to do what? Send it back to wherever that request came from. That is where we come in. But apart from that, that's not the only thing we do. Everything pertaining to logic behind the site are mostly done by back-end engineers. Resources, right? Making dynamic web, sending dynamic content. That's where we come in as back-end engineers, right? So now you can actually go to your Facebook, you type in your credentials to log in, and then Facebook tell you that it's wrong, that credential is wrong. How does Facebook know that credential is wrong? It is because your information is there in their database. So the front end now gets your information, send it to the back end, like, please, check if that information is valid in the database. If it's valid, send us the response saying it is valid. Then we simply route you to where it should be, or to a resource that only authenticated users can do what can see. But if it's not valid, send us back so that we now as front end engineers will simply tell the client, sir, please, these credentials are not correct. That's so we have in every side we have a role to play. We have a role to play. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other question? Any other question? So I forgot to tell us that in today's class, there will be no coding. It's very unfortunate. It is. All right. So any other question? But then you need to understand this concept. These concepts are necessary that we know them. Right. So there's what we also call a full stack engineer. Okay. So you always hear people say, "I'm full stack." Right? I'm full stack. What do they mean? It simply means that they possess the knowledge of coming up with a fantastic design and they also possess the dimension of writing server scripts. So it means that they can build both sides single-handedly. So that means that what a full stack engineer for web applications. Do you understand? Do we understand? So the silence means that we understand. That we understand. So that's basically what is happening in in front end development. That's basically what is happening there, right? This will come up with what they make use of one of this fantastic syntax markup language, put up a skeleton, use CSS, do what, put a design of, and the design does what, looks wonderful like this. But then most front end engineers cannot work without the UI UX personnel, right? So there's someone that sit down and probably use whatever tools they use and will draft out a design, right? And what the front end engineer does do was simply replicate this design using what HTML and the rest of them, and whatsoever component can be used for front end development. Replicate it, and then the back end comes in and do what I'm supplying what resources, right? It comes in and start supplying resources. That's how this thing works, right? So that's in a work setting. That's how it is. So we have people that carry out requirement analysis. But there are people that carry out the UI UX. There are people that carry out the front end development. There are people that carry out the back end development, and then they form a full team. Right? So that's how it is. And that's how it will be. Just giving you a hint now. That's how it is. That's how it is, and that's how it will be. So just be prepared, eh? All right. In the absence of question, let's dive into um our section, back end development. Basically, what code that runs on server and generate what dynamic content. So those are the key concepts of back end, right? Of back end development, server side scripting and database. So we are people that are mostly like going to do what to manipulate the database and do what and fetch information. So that's basically where we come in, and a lot of tools for this. So unlike the front end, where we have HTML and CSS being more like a standard for it, and you can every other thing that comes right must be built on top of that standard, right? So if JavaScript comes in and still work with us, that JavaScript must still be there. Sorry, the HTML and CSS must still be there. Those are like the standard of what a web browser can read or understand. So those are standard. But then if it comes to back end, we have a lot of languages that can be used for server side scripting. One of them is JavaScript itself. JavaScript has a framework called Node.js, right? We have Python also have a framework called Django and Flask. Right? So we have PHP, we have Ruby, right? So these are things these are languages that we can use to build back end development, server side scripting, right? But for this bootcamp, we'll be focusing on Python, and we're looking at what fast API, because we are basically doing what writing APIs. Okay, we are basically writing APIs. So having that in mind and knowing that in every website that is we have two sections, the front end and what the back end, like the client and what the server model. And then we also know that for the back end development, we've been what we'll be using Fast API, right? And then we're using Python, and Python will be used with the Fast API framework. Having that in mind, what exactly is Fast API? What exactly is Fast API? This is where we now belong. This is our own domain. So we have to take our time and explain this particular aspect of it, right? What exactly is Fast API? What exactly is Fast API? So it's basically a framework that allows you to build APIs. But then before we proceed, what exactly is I've heard of API before. Can you show by lifting your hand? I've heard of API before now. I've heard of API. Show by lifting your hand. Okay, this is the first time I'm hearing API. Let me see. Duncan. This is the first time you are hearing API. Okay. Any other person? So it means that all of us that our hands are not raised. We've heard of fast API. I think we have an idea of what, sorry, we've heard of API, sorry, not fast API. We've heard of API before. So it means that that the rest of us that our hands are not raised, we've heard of API. Now people are raising their hands. Okay. All right. Okay. So it means that I want to believe that Mr. Boma is that Boma Akins is a Mr. You've heard of API. Let me know it. Boma Akin, you've heard of API. Wonderful. So the people in the session, the people in the comment section that said that they've heard of it. So Anthony Collins, what is API? Not what is fast API. What exactly is API? Unmute. Unmute. Anthony Collins. What is API? If Anthony is not available, Jimmy Samuel, API. Anthony went and copied from browser and pasted it on comments. Okay, no problem. So okay, so what Anthony has there on the comment section is correct, right? So API is basically what a set of defined rules, okay, that enable different applications. Okay, that's fantastic. So that's basically what an API is. It's an acronym for application. So it's basically an acronym for application programmable interface, right? So what do I mean? Or how does this thing behaves, right? How does API behaves? So the core concept or the core behavior of how an API should behave is that if Mr. if Mr. Collins, Mr. Anthony Collins should have an application. Let's say Mr. Anthony Collins have an application that is written in PHP. For instance, let's I'll clean this off. Let's say Mr. Anthony, right? Anthony right here. Have an application that's written in a language called PHP, right? And we have Mr. I believe that's Mr. Uh, Mr. David, okay, also have another application, right? Also have another application, Mr. David, also have another application that is written, say, in Python, right? And then Mr. Anthony's application, right, is simply, let's say, it's a news article, right? News article so what happens is that Mr. Anthony goes out for live news, gets resources, and they will publish it on on his article, right? On his web application that he wrote, that he built well with PHP, right? Now Mr. David now comes into the same line of work and intend to have what a news article application as well. Well, Mr. David can simply do what, follow Mr. Anthony to scenes, to site, and do what, and get these articles and also publish on his page as well. Or Mr. David can simply do what, copy or borrow or ask or request from Mr. Anthony if he can do what, just get his own article and do what, and publish on his own article and probably pay Mr. Anthony for that services, right? That can be done. But then there will be a problem. The problem is that Mr. Anthony can simply just copy his server-side script and give to Mr. David and say, okay, go and run this script, and this script will fetch information from my database, and then you do what, you publish it, right? But then when that script gets to Mr. David, Python may not be able to process PHP. So as such, that may not actually work. So what then happened? So people now came up, okay, and they now said, okay, so that let's have what a standard in which every application, no matter the language that is being built, should know what can interact or can do what can share information. And then that format or that standard was not referred to what to JSON standard or the JSON format, anyhow I want to put it. So it now comes to the fact that in every programming language or in every server-side code or language, your that language must be able to do what to interpret or understand that format. Every language, right? So any programming language that comes up, new ones, the new one that is to actually come up must understand that language, because it has been made known that this should be what a more like a generic standard for everyone for communication between applications. Are making sense? So as such, Mr. Anthony would not be will not need to do what to copy his scripts, his server-side script, and give to what and give to Mr. David. What Mr. Anthony can do, Mr. Anthony can simply provide Mr. David with a route, a URL. So what he wants to do is to provide Mr. Anthony with a URL, right? With a URL, and tell Mr. David, go to this URL and do what? Upon visiting this URL, my PHP script will execute and do what? Fetch all the articles and then convert it to a JSON format. So upon visiting this URL, Mr. David will get a JSON standard or a JSON format that holds all the details of all the articles in his database. So as such, with that format, Mr. David, which his own application is now being built on Python with Python rather, can process this format and do what and work with it accordingly. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Do we understand? Do we understand?
So please, can you explain it again? I'm saying that the JSON format is like a middleman or something like that.
Yes, the JSON format is a standard of data communication. All right. So it means that if I'm sending if you want to communicate with me, if with my application, I should be able to do what send you a response in what that should come in this format, because that response there is more like a generic response for every programming language. It means that every programming language can process that response, right? So it means that if I need your Mr. Anthony's articles, all what Mr. Anthony has to do is to do what is to provide a means of me provides a he has to do what to provide a means where I can get those articles what in a JSON format, right? So the JSON format is saying it sounds big. It's similar. It looks like our dictionary. So it comes in keys and values. So basically, if you Google up JSON format, then you see that it's basically what let's look for an image. So you see that well, let's see. Looking for a wonderful image. All right, let's look at this. So if you could look at, if you see that clearly, then you see that is basically what a JSON format, and it is similar to what to our dictionary. So that's how it is. That's how it looks like. Okay, so I don't think that image did increase, but rather the font in our sites did increase. So that's basically how an API works, right? It means that that whatever information that we are exchanging should come in this format. So which makes a medium of communicating between softwares. Does that make sense? Is that okay? So the JSON format here is more like the middleman between these two applications.
Sorry, sir. So
Okay.
the API is the medium for communicating between two. I want to get a clear definition of API. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. It's a medium of communicating between two softwares or two applications. or it's a mechanism.
Thank you.
Use mechanism, not medium. The mechanism for communicating between two softwares. That's basically what an API is. And then we're gonna see question before we proceed. Question. All right. So we're gonna see how we can create this mechanism where people can do what where people can communicate with our softwares regardless of their programming language. And I'm going to do was create this mechanism using a framework called Fast API. So in other words, Fast API is a Python web framework that allows us to build APIs, the mechanism for communicating between two softwares. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. When I was doing my tax 3, I saw that JSON stuff when I googled it online, but I did not understand what it was. So now I understand.
Perfect. Perfect. And that question there was intentional. And I intentionally put that question there. The request, the currency exchange. This was to prepare us because so when we start building similar things, we can understand what was happening behind there. But I'm happy that they're beginning to grasp the concept of API. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. All right. So let's see how we can build this mechanism using Fast API. So these are just notes, and the benefit of Fast API, of course, is it's handy, it's quick, it's quick, right? You see that when building this mechanism using Fast API, it takes you less time. So in less than a minute or in less than 5 minutes, you have a basic endpoint up and running, right? Less stress. You have a basic endpoint up and running already. Okay, so yes, during the course you'll be using JSON format because of course by default your Fast API will be returning a JSON format. Right, by default, whatever response you're sending out, Fast API automatically make sure that it's going out as a format that other application can work and communicate with. The other application can communicate with. All right. So what are the prerequisites of this? Right. So need to understand Python. There's no wonderful way of missing that. There's no way around it. We cannot miss it. We cannot skip it. We cannot run away from it. So that's how we started off this track with Python. Right. So you have to understand because Fast API, like I said, depends on Python. All right, depends on Python because you're still writing your Python code there. Your Fast API file is a Python file. So it means that you're writing Python. And then you need to understand web development fundamentals. That's why I just talked about few minutes ago. How web development works. So you have two sections. You have the front end and the back end. The back end is where we do what we send resources based on a specific request. And then you have to understand just like I just said, JSON format and serialization. So serializing is basically a means of converting a database object to what to a JSON format, which we'll look at that as well. And basic command line type, no problem if you don't have that. That's we can, and when we proceed, we can actually handle that. And a quick one. Our days of submitting Google form or Google link has finished. That's finished. So hopefully, if not in this class, towards the end of the class, hopefully in the next class, we look at Git, right? Because moving forward, you'll be submitting your repository, your Git repository. When a task is given, I don't expect to see drive.google or having google.drive.com. I expect to see github.com slash your repository name. So we look at how you can do how you can push your codes to GitHub and put them there and then submit your GitHub repository link. Okay. So this we cannot avoid. This we cannot just run away from it. As far as back-end development is concerned, you cannot run away from it. So we look at that. Not even in this class, hopefully towards the end, in our next class, we will look at Git command. Okay. But so these are basically the requirements or the prerequisites, the things that we must know before stepping into into the world of fast API. And the reason why this is a prerequisite is that so that when we start putting out certain codes, we don't have to necessarily explain too much what that code does because we all understand the basic of Python, okay, like variable assignment, function, classes, and okay, that's one thing. Yeah, something else comes to my mind now. Someone did his task with class. I never talked about class, but then someone did class. But there's no problem. There's no problem. There's no problem. All right, so that is that. And let's see how we can do what get fast API up and running. So the thing is this that Fast API is a framework that we need to do what to install. So it means that we can't use it because it is not installed on our devices. So you have to actually have it installed, and we can actually just do that with this command pip install fast API. Probably some of us have rushed to go and type this already, but I'll tell you, do not type that yet. Do not type that yet. I'll tell you why. So we're not type that yet. So what we can simply do is we can go to our command prompt and then we could just type pip install fast API, pip install fast API. But I will not do this. I will not do this because the reason for this is that if I do this, it simply means that I am installing this directly to my hard disk or to the default folder where Python is, like more like a global installation. So it's basically it's more like all right. So if I do this, it makes it becomes a global installation. So now the problem is that not that that will not work, that will work. It means that within anywhere I can actually do I can actually access fast API. So the thing here is that the problem here is this, right? Fast API is they have versions. What do I mean? It means that they are upgrading, new things are being added to the framework itself. So that time we have syntax that will be outdated, right? Yeah, we have syntax that will be outdated, and then if you require that your fast that you should do what that you should update your fast API. So the moment you update your fast API, or maybe you mistakenly update it globally as you've done it so, and then you have existing projects that have been depending on a specific version of your fast API at the point of your installation right now. And then that process now means that you need to actually go back to those old projects and start re-editing it to have to carry the recent update. So you see how stressful that is. So what if you've deployed about 1,000 projects with about 10 million files? It means that you have to go back to 1,000 projects that has 10 million files and start doing what? Making those changes to your code to fit in with the new update. You understand? So as such, it's not always recommended that we carry out this installation globally. So what I usually do is I install this in a virtual environment. What is a virtual environment? A virtual environment is basically a container that holds what dependent. It's similar to your variable, but then this one right is not holding values, but this one right is holding what dependencies. Should I say models, right? That you use for a specific project. So let's say for this project, I'll be using let's say I'll be using Cloudinary, I'm using Fast API, I'm using another let's say another model, right? So it means that I can wrap up those models along with their versions and put it in one virtual in one box and then one project will simply depend on just that box. And then if I have another project, I'll do what I'll put another box for that so that just in case if there's an update, then this project has no business with the previous project because the previous projects have their own box they are feeding from, which is still feeding from the old version. While the new one can still continue with the new version with the new changes without me necessarily going back to the old project to make those changes. Do you understand? Do we understand? Was that too fast?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I
Please
understand.
come again.
All right. Okay, so what I'm saying is this, right? What I'm saying is that it is not recommended to have fast API or to have any module to be installed globally, right? It's not recommended that we have any module installed globally. And the reason for that is that modules are being updated. If you if okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Python. Okay, let's go back to Python. Or let's look for a module. Let's say we have a Django decouple. This. So this is a module that we use in hiding virtual environment security information in our browser, in our web applications. So you see that when you click on this module comes with a specific version, right? So if you install it, then this will come with a specific version of when you made an installation. Now over time, these modules are being so the module is there 3.8 version 3.8, right? So now it means that if I should install Python decoupled now, I'll have version 3.8, right? But then we should also know that these are models, these are third-party models. It means that there are people that are still working on them, right? It means that over time they will do what they will bring in new version. And we don't know what may comes with the new version that may do what that may say, okay, that this that were done in the old version can no longer be done in this new version. And then if you had this done globally, it means that the moment you update this, that every project that you've built that were depending on that global installation is finished. Like it's finished in the sense that you have to go back and re-edit all of them to carry the new changes that have been done. Does that make sense? Right. Let me put this up in a writing. I think that will make a lot of sense. So let's assume that we have module A that comes with version 2.0. And then module A says that we can simply just write print without the curly braces, right? So you can simply just say print, and then in quotation you put what you want to print. Let's say hello world. And then this module was installed globally, right? And then for any reason you mistakenly, right, you mistakenly update this module globally again. Let's say you now update again this model mistakenly, or for any reason something happened, and then you update it globally, and then it moves from version 2.0 to 2.1. And then the 2.1 now says that in order for you to use print, that you must use print with parentheses. That mean that you must do this. That you must do this. Hello world. Hello world. Right. So what does it tell us? It tells us that, remember, since these are all global installations, it means that this software, this application is depending on this one now, right? On 2.0. This one here is also doing what? It's also depending on 2.1. So it means that you have to go back and do what, and start putting parentheses here because of what? Because of the updates you just done. So imagine you having about 1,000 projects done already before this update. It means that you have to go to wherever you have prints in that project. Even you have one print 100 million places, you have to go to 100 million places and do what, and put that print there. Or you will downgrade again. Do you understand? So as such, it is not always important to do what to it's not sorry, it's not always recommended to do what to do global installation. So that's where virtual environment comes in. We could say virtual environment, VENV. We could say that this project here what is depending on that module. So it means that even if I come here and update this again in another virtual environment, VNV, that this further project is not depending on this, but this other one is still depending on the old project. Are we making sense? And it also saves us what we call dependency. What it saves us from dependency clashes, right? Where you have we have a dependency fighting with another dependency. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So the question, the silence means that actually was understood.
I have a
Right. So
question.
we're not gonna install it. Is there a question?
Yes, I have a question. So you
Okay.
said whenever the API is by mistake or purposely updated, even though it has a line, main line of code under it, you have to start updating those codes yourself. So I want to ask now, if by mistake now it was being updated from, let me say, version 2.0 to 2.1 now, can't you like go back to the previous version?
Like I said, or you downgrade.
Okay, okay. Okay, sir.
All right. So the way we will actually carry out that installation now, okay, is this. So we're going to look at installation as well as project setup. So we're going to install and we're going to do what set up our working project. So usually this is how it's done, or this is how I do mine. Okay, and I think this works better. So what I will do is this. So assuming we want to have our project within here, right? Our project within here, within our folder, right? Now we should have usually we should have a parent folder, say API folder that contains all the folders of what of your project. If you have about 10 projects, then that means you have like 10 folders under what API folder, right? Do you understand where I'm coming from? So I want to make this what our parent folder CodeCamp for dash beginner. So it means that all our projects will live within this folder. So now, assuming I want to start a new project, and then I want to call that project, project one. So I'll simply come inside here and I'll call it project one. Now, for the one, right, lives inside where CodeCamp 4 dash beginners folder, right? So if I have another project, say project two, then all I have to do is to do what? Still come here again and do what? And create another project called project two, right? And so on and so forth. Makes my file to be organized, right? My file to be organized. But then within my project one, I want to have my working folder. That is where the folder that contains all the files pertaining to what to our fast API, alongside with what with my virtual environment for project one. Do you understand? Try that again. Within my project one, I want to have two more folders. My working folder, that a folder that will contain all the files pertaining to what pertaining to your fast API, pertaining to your fast API. That folder will hold all the files that your fast API would ever need to function. And then the second folder will now be what? A folder that contains all our dependencies for that project. You understand? That's two folders. So I will create the folder that does what? The folder that will hold my files. I'll call that main folder. So the main folder here will basically be the folder that will hold my all my source code prepared to fast API. Main folder will hold it. And then within this same directory again, I want to create my virtual environment. That's the folder that will do what that will hold all my dependencies for that project. So you can manually do this. But I would not advise you to do that. Right. So the best option of doing this is to do what? Is to use the VENV module. So there's a module that comes alongside Python installation and it's called VENV. It's a built-in Python module. So this module can be used to do what? To create a virtual environment. So it comes alongside Python installation. So you can simply use it and do what? And Python will do what? We'll use it to do what? To create a virtual environment. So I want to create a virtual environment, right? Right inside what? Our project one folder in the same directory we have our main folder. So how do I do this? And I could simply you want to copy that URL there, or you can manually just do what, navigate to that URL. So what do I mean? You can manually navigate. You can simply go to your CMD and then do what, and then you do what, you manually navigate down there by saying CD. You change directory there into your desktop. That's if that's where your if that's where you intend to put your files. And then within your desktop, I want to change directory again to what, to KodeCamp, the KodeCamp 4 dash beginners, and then change directory again to what, to project 1, I believe. So now I am in that folder. So now if I should say to, if I should list the directory here, I can now have what, my main folder. So I want to be in that folder. I want to be in that directory, like in my project 1 directory. Right? That's where I want to create my virtual environment. Or you will simply do what, just copy the directory here. The directory is just there, up there. So once you click on it, you can just copy that directory. So it will start from the C drive all the way to where that folder is. So you copy it and then go back to your command prompt, and then you can just change directory and then just paste it there. So what do I mean? You can just you can just change directory and then just paste the whole directory link there, and you just take it to that directory instantly. Anyone works, right? Anyone works for us. All right, so now within that folder now, right, I want to create my virtual environment. And to create the virtual environment using the venv module, being the built-in module from Python. So we use the command Python. Please note this command down as you will likely going to use it for all your projects. So Python followed by -m, right, or -m, then followed by what, the module name in this case is venv. Venv there, what is the module name, and then what follows now is what, your virtual environment name. How do you want to call your virtual environment? I could call it project 1 environment, env. I could call it anything, but I love to call mine the same name with the module itself, right? But then if that will confuse you, please provide a name that makes sense for you. For me, I want to call my venv. So with this, I know that this is the module, and this is my project, and that is my virtual environment name. I can spot the difference. But if these two names will confuse you, please change the last one to whatever name you want to use. Right? But me, I know that I love doing this. Right? This is the built-in Python module, and this other one here, what is my virtual environment name. So I click on enter, and that will create you a virtual environment. Right. So you click on enter, and this will create you a virtual environment. So this may take time. Please, this process requires internet connection though. Right. So if you have not having internet, and this might actually run an error for you. So that will take few seconds, and then if you open up that folder, then you so that is done. That has finished creating the environment for you. So if you open up that folder again, you should now have what, 2 folders. We have our main, we have our venv, and within this venv are what, our dependencies or our files that will help us to do what, to manage our dependency. So like I said, you could have done this manually, but then it's not always recommended. So imagine you doing this manually, now creating all these folders manually. Okay, so that will make sense, right? So that is how your folder should be, right? Your main folder alongside what with your virtual environment folder, right? Now we can do what? Now we can install our fast API, not globally, but then to this folder. It means that if I should delete that folder, I can delete what virtual environment out of my PC, and it's that simple. So now I can do what? I can now run the installation of fast API. But then before you run any installation for your project, you want to make sure that your virtual environment for that project is active. And how do you know that is active? You will see the name showing on your command prompt like this, within what, a square bracket. So far it's not there. It means that it's not yet active. So it means that if I carry out any installation now, that installation will be done globally. So always check that, always make sure that your environment is active before carrying out any installation. Now, once you carry out installation during when it's active, it simply means that installation is not done globally, but then it's done for that environment. It means that if I should leave that folder out, then everything that we've installed should go as well, right? So how do we activate our virtual environment? We simply use the command where we specify the environment name, which in this case mine was VENV. If yours was project one, then type project one. Whatever you use as your virtual environment name, you want to put that name there. So in this case, I used VENV. So what will follow now is what is backslash script backslash activate. So this is the command that you use to activate your virtual environment. But then note that this command works when you are when you are in your project folder directory, right? So now if I activate that, then you can see that what the name is now there within parentheses. It means that our environment is what is active. So whatever we install now should live within that environment, right? Should live within that environment. And then to activate this, we simply type deactivate, and this will deactivate that. So you can see that that name is gone now. That name is no longer there. It's no longer there. The name is gone. It's no longer there. So to activate it back again, use the command venv your environment name script activate, and that will go live again. So now with that we can carry out the installation. So I can now comfortably type what pip install fast API, and that will carry out the installation. So after that, sorry, that should be joined. Sorry, that's a mistake. Please, fast API is one. It should be joined. This iteration here is wrong. This thing is installing something we don't know. This is installing fast. What is fast? So you say that throws an error. So this should be what this should be fast API, please. It won't work. You see that installation actually happens successfully. So fast API will install fast API, and then will install other necessary dependencies that it needs to function properly. So you can say that it's installing a lot of things that we never asked for, but then fast API needs all these things. Right? So it needs all those things. So please know that this space here requires the data. Please note that requires a data, and this is how we do what. This is how we install. This is how we install third parties packages that did not come alongside Python installation. This is how we install it. So now once we install it now, it will be as if it came alongside Python installation. So you can just simply import it the same way we import random, right? We can just import fast API and start using. So it's because as if it came alongside with Python installation, right? So once we want to install third-party packages, we use pip install and then the package name, right? And then the package name, and then we can do what simply import it and use it within our project. And then if you're having if you're having difficulty to use a third-party application, please do not disturb yourself, because third-party applications are written by someone else. So what you can do is you can simply just navigate to their documentation and go through how to use it. Right? There's no law that says that once you install third-party application that you must know how to use it. It's not you that wrote it. So please do well to reach their documentation and know how to use it. Is that okay? So that is actually kind of installation, and that installation should be finished anytime soon. Question with that process? Any question with that process?
Sir, please, you said after that activate side, you said I was going to put pipe install what?
Pip install fast API. After once your environment is active, you want to do pip install API. So please pip install fast API. The fast API is one word, please. Pip install
Okay,
fast
sir.
API.
Thank you.
No. So fast API there is what we'll be using to help us to interact with other software. Our installation should be done by now. Right, so we are done installing. So now if I should want to check the list of dependencies we have here, so I could just simply say pip freeze, and this will show us every dependency that we have. So you can see that fast API did install a lot of things. So and then you could see what the versions for each of these things. So it did install fast API. So see fast API here, it been installed, but then it also installed email validator, fast API CLI, and most of them. Right, so, which is not a problem. So now you can see that now all these dependencies are not installed directly to our hard disk. It means that if I should deactivate my our virtual environment, that these things here do no longer exist. If I should deactivate it or delete it, it means that those things do no longer exist. So that's the beauty of virtual environment. So it helps you manage your dependencies. Question: is there anyone that has not been able to install that?
Yes, sir. Sir, it's in my CMD, it's throwing an error.
Saying what?
I don't. It's throwing an error in my CMD.
What the error?
Yeah.
What the error?
I did CLS. I cleaned it off, and I'm trying to do it again. So please, can you just repeat the process,
Okay,
please?
to repeat the process of the installation.
Yes, like that creating of that main file and that the other files and how they work with the CMD.
Okay. All right. All right. So okay. So first of all, for each of your product that you want, for each of the product that you want to actually work, okay. Now you want to know where you intend to put your product. Usually, I put my product in my document. Right. So if I want my documents, you say that there are folders that are there that contain projects, right? So, but in this case, I'm saying that I want to put our project, that all our projects must live in my desktop within a folder called KodeCamp for beginners. So it means that all my projects will live within my desktop. This is my desktop, and they must live within what this folder. All my projects must live within KodeCamp for beginner, right? Then inside this KodeCamp for beginner, I can have multiple projects, right? So this KodeCamp for beginner will basically be housing all the projects that I will ever work on. If it's 10,000 of them, then I should have 10,000 folder within what KodeCamp for beginners folder, right? So that's the duty of KodeCamp 4. So it means that if once I open KodeCamp 4, I should access all my projects that I've worked on so far. And then within this KodeCamp 4, I can have subfolders that are specific to each project. So it means that if I intend to get my project one, what I need to do is I need to go to KodeCamp 4 beginner, which is all my projects, and then go to what project one, which is what a specific project. Are we following? Are you following, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, sir, I'm following.
All right. So please, if there's anyone also that having difficulty, please do well to follow as well. All right. So now, within my project one, right, I should have what? I should see two folders, right, within my project one. So now, these two folders are, are serving a different purpose, right? So these folders can be named anything. You can name them anything, right? And I'm just used to using those two names, main and BNB. You can call yours anything. You can call yours A, you can call yours B, you can call yours mango, you can call yours apple, pineapple, but whatever you see fit, you can call it anything. But then there should be two folders, and then those two folders should serve two different purposes, right? Now for the first folder, whatever you name yours, but for me, I have main folder. Now main folder should be a folder that should contain all my codes, all my codes. So it means that if I want to at least start writing my API code, what I need to open what is my main folder and not my project one folder, right? So if I want to write code, what I want to open is what is my main folder and not project one, because project one is basically doing or housing two folders, the virtual environment and the main folder. But my codes are living in the main folder and not in the virtual environment. So that means I have no business with virtual environment folder. So in that case, I want to open what my main folder, and that is where I'll find all my scripts that pertains to what to that specific project, right? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So, sir, let's say we want to write another project. Where would
Okay.
where will we save that?
All right. So if I want to write another project, right, then I have to go back to my KodeCamp for beginner, which by default should house all my projects, and then I can just simply create another folder called project 2, like we have there. And then within this project 2, I should also have another 2 folders. The main folder that should hold all the scripts for that specific um, project, alongside the one with the virtual environment for project 2, because project 2 might be using a dependency that project 1 is not using. All right. Is that understood? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All
I'm
right.
understanding.
All right. So going back to project 1, because since we have a virtual environment here already, going back to project 1, okay. So now within my project 1 now, all right, I now have a main folder which will hold all my scripts. So it means that if I want to start writing my code, all I have to do is just to open my main folder, and nothing really concerns me with my project 1 folder. So I could just do cd into what main, and then open up what main with VS Code. So it means that it is within this folder that will hold all my Python scripts pertaining to that file. So I could just simply create one new file and call this main dot. It could be anything though. So this one is just for demo sake, main.py, and this man here will do what we hold all the script code to pertaining to project 1. So all the code will live there, right? So now if I go back to my folder now, you can see that I cannot actually see my VNV folder from here, because like I said, we are not editing the VNV folder. So there's no point of opening it so that you don't mistakenly go and do what and edit it. So no point of opening up the VNV. So I basically open just the main.py. Sorry, just the main folder that contains the necessary code for the project. So now if you go back now, we now have our main.py, and as the project grows, we are likely going to have as many files as possible. Right? Do you understand up to that point?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now within that, and now if we move a step backward from our main folder, we now arrive in our project 1 folder, right? Now within this project 1 folder, like I said, we need to create the second folder, and in that second folder, we hope that it should be that should handle our dependency for this project. Now, like I said, you can do this manually, but then the stress will be something else. Because if you open up our VNV, we have a lot of libraries, right? We have a lot of libraries that are pertaining to Python scripts. So these are basically Python scripts. So Python is basically downloading all these scripts. So imagine you're now trying to come and start creating all this. If you open these scripts, the code that you see in these scripts, this is someone's code. Someone sat down to write all this code so that we can know what we can. Remember, models are basically Python files. Someone sat down, wrote all this code, and tell you, please import it to your file and start using it. So that we don't mistakenly end up editing this code, please do not open the virtual environment folder. Right? Let it be there. Like I said, those are people's. That is someone's code. There's no point of doing what of opening the folder, right? So you want to only open your main folder. All right. So back to the VS Code again. Sorry, to our project folder now. All right. Now we need to do what? We need to create a folder that should handle all those files, right? All those files there. Meaning that a folder that should handle all those dependencies, external dependencies, third-party dependencies, anyhow you want to put it. So now we can do that manually, like I said. So it means that you have to create all this folder alongside with all these files. So you sit down and then you for Fast API. I think Fast API is somewhere down here. You can see Fast API. So these are the code for Fast API. You now sit down and then you start writing Fast API code. Okay. You go to your source code and copy and go and paste, and then keep copying like that to you what you have the entire module, right? Which I'm certain that you end up doing while making mistake. So instead of that, you do what we can do it manually, right? Instead of that, we can do it manually. Sorry, automatically. Where pattern will do what we'll install these things and do what and arrange them well as it should be. So that's where the VENV module comes in. The VENV modules will do what will create that folder, or more like that base that will accept the installation of third-party packages. But then you need to make sure that when creating this folder, that this folder should be created not inside your main. Please don't create it inside your main, but it should be outside your main. That means it should be in the same directory with the main, not inside the main directory, but in the same directory where the main is, which in this case is what is project one. So you can simply copy the URL of that project of that folder, that is from your C drive all the way to what to project one, and then you navigate to your command prompt. Since you're going to run the pip install in your command prompt, so you bring it down here. So you can simply say change directory to what to project one folder, and then you want to do what you want to get at that creation of virtual environment in this folder, in project one folder. Please, if you change this domain to CD main, it means that you've now moved one step inside again. That you've moved from project one inside what the main folder. So if you end up copying this, if you end up opening the main folder and copying this route, when you create that virtual environment, it will be created inside this main folder, which is what we're trying to avoid. So you should make sure that you are outside of the main folder, but inside your project one folder. Outside the main folder, but inside project one folder. So you click on that again, and then you want to do what? To change directory to that specific folder. So you can simply say cd again and paste that, and it take us back to what? To project one. So when you are there and you're sure that you are in project one, not inside main folder, you can now add the command Python -m, the module name, which in this case is VENV, and then what? Your virtual environment name, which in this case, any name you see fit. It can be apple, it can be pineapple, it can be human, it can be dog, it can be cat, it can be food, anything at all, anything that you see fit, you put it there. But in my own case, like I said, I just love the VNV, the name VNV. So I name mine the same with that model, with that built-in model, VNV. So I wouldn't run this command because I've already run that and I have that folder created already. So you want to do that, and then you want to click on enter, and that should take about a few seconds, and then it will now do what? Create that folder for you automatically. And then after that has been done, you want to turn it on, because it only creates but not turn it on. So you want to make sure that your virtual environment is ready to do what? To accept dependencies. If not, once you type pip install, you're basically installing that globally. So you want to make sure that your virtual environment is active, but it's active, right? So to make sure to confirm that is active, the name should appear or should show before your directories, right? So it should show before your C drive. The name should now come in, and then it should be within what? It should be within a parenthesis bracket. So if it's not there, then that means it's not yet active. So to activate it, you call the name. So if you call yours mango, then that should be mango. If you call yours pineapple, then that should be pineapple. But in my case, I called mine VENV, and then followed by what? By backward slash. Now, why is backward slash? Is because you're in the command terminal, and then to reference a directory, you can see you use what? Backward slashes, right? So it should be backward slash followed by script, followed by another backward slash, followed by activate. And then when you click on enter, then this should be active. Now, once that is Once that is active, you are good to go. It means that you can go ahead to do what to start installing your dependencies. Right? You can start installing your dependencies, and those dependencies will now live within what the virtual environment and not globally. But will not live within the virtual environment and not globally. So you cannot type in your pip install fast API. If I run this command, then this will tell me requirement already satisfied. That's because I have that installed already. So you can see that I have requirements all satisfied already, right? All of them. Requirement already satisfied. So, but that if you haven't actually run that before, so that will carry out that installation for you. So it will not only install fast API, but it will install other things that it assumes that fast API should use, or that you as developer should do what should use. Question. Mr. Duncan, please ask a question.
So please, what did you type? Python. I could not.
The command for creating the virtual environment.
Yes, Python. What did you type there? I could not see clearly.
All right. So what I typed was this. Let me just put that on the slide. I think that will make a lot of sense. So I did this. I basically typed Python -m. Please, all these things should be in lower cases. VENV followed by your virtual environment name. So whatever name you see fit, you just put it there. Any other question? Any other question?
Sorry, so after you do the MV and then the name, the next thing is to type in scripts. After scripts, what else, please?
Yeah, so after this has been created, then you want to activate it. So this means that this your name is coming down, followed by a backslash script, followed by activate.
So okay,
So
you do change of directory.
Yeah.
Sorry, you do change of directory to. So after
No.
you run that.
After you've run this, you want to be in that same directory to activate this. All right. So after activating that, then what you can now do is to do what is to start your installation. So your pip. So this man here will now come. So this man here should now come down here. Is that okay? Any other question?
So when I finished the first code, I only stopped at project 1. The last folder was project 1. I didn't get the virtual EMV name something. After
after you've changed directory to project 1, then you want to type this command out. Python -m virtual environment name, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, after that, you want to activate it. After activating it, then you want to do what? You want to carry out the installation.
Okay.
All right. Any other question?
Okay. Sir, please, what did you type to open the main folder on the VS Code?
What did I type to open main folder on VS Code?
Yes.
Yeah, you can simply just go to your main folder and right click and open it. And if you have the option of opening in VS Code, then it should then open it there. But for me, I don't have that option. So what I usually do is I'll just go to that directory and type code and it's open there. Right. So if I do this now, so let's assume I want to open main. So I have to navigate to main, cd main, change directory to main, and then open in code. So just type in code and then followed by dots, and that will open up that directory, that folder in VS Code. But if you have the option of opening yours from your File Explorer, then open it from File Explorer. All right. So
I have a question.
Okay.
At the end of the installation of the first API,
Okay.
I have 2 notices
Okay.
telling me about a new release for PIP being available
All
and
right.
the
So you
code
can
to
actually.
use to upgrade.
All right. So
Do
you
you
can actually.
advise I upgrade?
You can ignore that, but you can as well upgrade that. So what you want to do is just copy the command that they've said that you can actually use for upgrade. Copy that command and paste it and run again, and that upgrade can actually happen. So you can go ahead and upgrade, but that's not a problem. Right? That will not affect your code.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Any other question?
I'm getting an error after running the second command.
You said what the error?
Virtual. What did he say?
Directional found.
No, not directional found. PSI cannot be loaded.
PSI cannot be loaded. Please send that screenshot.
Okay.
Send that screenshot to the group, Discord group, because we are already out of time. And then I'll tell you what to do.
All right.
Right. Any other question? Right. No other question. All right. Please. Yeah. I don't know if the rep is still here, but pass the information that that before next class, I want all of us to install Postman. So simply go to Postman /download or Postman downloads, and download Postman and install it. So I think it should be the first link. So you click on it and then you do what you install Postman on your devices. So if button, you click on Windows 64 here and it will install Postman for you. So please update the group that I said that for those of us that have left the call already, please relate it with those ones that have left the call. Now before in next class, install Postman, because in next class I'll start using Postman and I won't even walk us through this process of installing this. Right. So because I assume that we've installed it already. So please, in your spare time, but before Wednesday, get Postman installed. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. So, is there any other question? Is anyone that having an error? Please post the error on the Discord group, and we sort it out from there. All right. So, in the absence of any other question,
Sir.
Okay.
So
Mr.
just a quick reminder about what you said at the beginning of the class.
Yes, I'll sort it out. Yes, I'll sort it out.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Okay. So, in the absence of any other thing, all right, please let's have a fantastic good night rest, and we'll see us on Wednesday, 7 p.m. West African time. Right.
So you're
Night.
still here to give us the slides, though.
I don't know why that keep happening, but hopefully that should not happen again. But I'll try my very best. But don't worry, I'll sort you guys out.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Please have a good night rest, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.